Single agent relationship. In a single agent relationship, the real estate brokerage is a single agent who represents the seller as a fiduciary in selling the home or the buyer as a fiduciary in buying a home. Florida license law defines a single agent as a broker who represents as a fiduciary either the buyer or the seller, but not both in the same transaction. When a broker represents a buyer or a seller as a fiduciary, there is a relationship of trust and confidence between the broker as agent and the seller as principal or client, or the buyer as principal or client. A fiduciary relationship between a broker and a buyer or a seller exists only when a single agent relationship is chosen. The term principal and client should only be used when referring to a single agent relationship. Subagents. Persons authorized to assist and represent the agent are called subagents. A subagent has the same duties as the agent. A broker sales associates are general agents of the broker and subagents of the broker's principals. For example, in a single agent relationship, the broker is an agent of the principal. The broker's sales associates and broker associates are subagents of the broker's principals. Sales associates and broker associates owe the same fiduciary obligations to the broker's principals as does their broker. Note that this is true regardless of whether the associates, for tax purposes, are employees or independent contractors of the broker. Dual agency. A brokerage firm may represent as a single agent either the buyer or the seller in a real estate transaction, but never both the buyer and the seller. Dual agency occurs when a brokerage firm represents as a fiduciary both the buyer and the seller in the same real estate transaction. It is illegal in Florida for a real estate licensee to operate as a dual agent. Because the relationship is established with the brokerage firm, it is still dual agency if two different licensees in the same brokerage entity represents the seller as a single agent and the buyer as a single agent. The 9 duties a real estate licensee owes to a buyer or a seller as a single agent are: 1. Account for all funds. This is the same as the transaction broker duty. 2. Disclose all known facts that materially affect the value of residential real property and are not readily observable to the buyer. This is the same as a transaction broker duty. 3. Deal honestly and fairly. This, as well, is the same as a transaction broker duty. 4. Confidentiality. Much of the information a broker gains while employed by the principal is confidential. An agent may not reveal to a third party, without the principal's permission, personal or private information that might lessen the principal's bargaining position. For example, a licensee may not tell a buyer that a seller is forced to sell owing to poor health or a loss of a job without the principal's permission. A broker may not divulge confidential information learned during the course of a single agency even after the transaction is concluded and the agent-principal relationship is ended. A broker is never free to use confidential information to the disadvantage of or reveal any harmful or unfavorable information about a former principal. 5. Obedience. The broker agent is at all times obligated to act in conformity with the principal's instructions as long as those instructions are legal and relevant to the contractual relationship. If a broker feels that carrying out the principal's legal directions will harm the principal, then the broker must promptly inform the principal of all known facts along with the broker's opinion. However, if the principal will not change the instructions, the broker must either carry them out or withdraw from the relationship. Brokers may not violate the law. For example, if a principal instructs a listing broker not to show the property or sell to a member of a particular minority or ethnic group, the broker may not obey the principal's instructions because doing so would violate the law. In such an instance, the broker must inform the principal that to restrict certain groups of people from seeing or purchasing a listed property is a violation of the fair housing laws. Number 6. Loyalty. The agent, as a fiduciary in a real estate transaction, must avoid any situation that might breach the duty of undivided loyalty to the principal. The overriding rule is that the brokers may not adopt an attitude that is adverse to the interest of the principals or act for themselves or some other person whose interests are contrary to those of the principal. Loyalty or faithfulness requires brokers to always place the principal's interest above those of other persons with whom the broker deals. Courts have ruled, being case law, that for brokers to be loyal to their principals, they cannot exercise duties in such a manner as to profit themselves or anyone else at the expense of the principal. The duty of loyalty includes, for example, obtaining the most favorable price and terms for the principal, acting on behalf of the principal, not acting for parties with adverse interest in the same transaction, and never concealing the identity of the purchaser to induce the principal to sell. Disclosing to the principal if the agent becomes personally interested in the principal's property, and never advancing the agents of another person's interest at the expense of the principal. Number 7, full disclosure. It is a broker agent's duty to keep the principal fully informed at all times of all the facts or information that might affect the transaction or the value of the property. An agent is obligated to disclose facts regarding a property's true worth. Agents may be held responsible for material facts they should have known and communicated to their principal but did not. Also, broker agents must inform their seller principals of the buyer's financial condition, the status of the earnest money deposit, if a personal relationship exists between the agent and the buyer, and all material facts must be revealed to the principal even if the disclosure of such facts might cause the transaction to fail. Full, fair, and prompt disclosure also includes notifying the principal if the broker is personally interested in buying the listed property. In such an event, the broker must clearly terminate the agent-principal relationship and inform the principal of all facts regarding the property that the broker has learned while in an agent's capacity. Otherwise, the broker could buy from the principal and subsequently sell at a higher price and keep the profit, which would be an overage, a secret profit, or a secret commission. To do so could be construed as fraud, misrepresentation, concealment, and/or dishonest dealings, and could expose the broker to liability to both seller and buyer for the full amount of the secret profit. It might further give rise to disciplinary proceedings against the licensee. Okay. Number 8, skill, care, and diligence in the transaction. Brokers' obligations extend beyond merely selling a listing or locating a suitable property for a buyer. Real estate brokers hold themselves out to the public as specially qualified by reason of experience, ability, and knowledge. If a broker's principal is a buyer, then the broker should attempt to obtain the property at the lowest price possible. If a broker's principal is a seller, then the broker should try to get the seller the most favorable price. This includes researching a property thoroughly to advise the seller of a reasonable listing price. Brokers should discuss with their principals any anticipated tax consequences and advise them to seek expert tax advice when appropriate. The duty of using skill, care, and diligence does not end with the signing of the contract. It continues via numerous services by the agent until the transaction is closed. An agent who does not perform with the required degree of skill, care, and diligence becomes liable to the principal for the damages the principal may have sustained and may be disciplined by FREC. Number 9, present all offers and counteroffers in a timely manner. This is the same as a transaction broker duty. The 9 duties discussed apply to all real estate transactions, residential and otherwise, when the parties have agreed to a single agent relationship. To help you remember the 4 unique duties of a single agent, think of COLD. You have confidentiality, obedience, loyalty, and disclosure, full. So the acronym COLD will help you remember.